Greetings, fellow scribes! Welcome back to the archive. It's that time of the month once again. It is time for Archival GMing. This is the sub-series where I take a look at games I've already covered and directly give GM tips for running them. This month, I am taking a look at Scion. Scion is a game of modern mythology, as in the children or chosen of various gods and goddesses running around the modern world dealing with mystical threats, whether it be centaurs who are made out of motorcycles or angry nymphs in a local swimming hole. And that's the sort of overall theme of it. But this week I'm going to talk about the different ways to run a game. So sit back, relax, and enjoy as we talk about Scion. The first step to GMing Scion is you have to decide the structure of the game. Part of the structure is kind of built into the very concept of it. The Campbellian hero's journey, the monomyth, because you're dealing with modern mythology. And honestly, at some point I should probably talk about the monomyth in gaming in general, because it is an important concept. Maybe I'll do that next month. But other than looking at that, you have to look at your structure, how the group gets together. And there are three main options. The first option is the Camp Half-Blood approach. This is sort of the idea that, oh look, let's have a school for these people who are going to be Scions, who are going to have their visitation at some point. And let's be trying to prepare them in some way for what's going to happen. Maybe it's at the origin level and you are actually preparing them for their visitation. Preparing them for the tests that will come ahead. Or maybe you're at the hero level where they've already had their visitation and this school is sort of a let's teach these people what they need to know to survive. And oh yeah, look, we've got a ready pool of mentors for them. Of course, there's always the fact that when you look at the monomyth, you're going to be most likely either having important mentors die horribly or this school get attacked. But that's one way you can kind of start the game off. It's safe. It kind of helps the characters kind of ease into things a little bit. And it's extremely derivative. The second method is the classic, the band of heroes fall in together somehow. This, again, like I said, is classic. This is how you got the Argonauts. This is how you got various heroic bands. Look at the Journey to the West, where you have one character traveling and he gets allies along the way. This is the strength of this one is that it does tie almost directly in with the monomyth. You can actually structure when everyone meets based on certain challenges and such. It starts off, you're probably going to be having the parties split up and having to run bits with individual people, which means you're not going to really have them all together at once, but you'll still be having them build up do their stuff, learn the character, and then the party slowly comes together as the story progresses. But of course, the downside to that is it's extremely structured. It's almost railroady, and a lot of players don't like that. Which gives us the third option. There are organizations out there. These organizations do stuff to help the different pantheons. And there's one that's run by the Egyptian god Ptah. There's another one that is run by the Fates. And what these organizations do is they kind of recruit. They tend to not really look at the individual pantheons. They look at the potential of the people. And with that, you have this organization. You might even create your own. And what it is doing is it is working with the players. Or should I say, the players are working for it. They might not even know that they are at first. Or they might know they're working for an organization, they just don't know what they're doing. This works extremely well for Origins level games. Because, imagine, let's say you've got a driver, a con artist, a tinkerer, and a gunslinger. This organization might get these people together. And it might have them do things like get into places for it, or make sure something gets from point A to point B. And all the while, it's kind of funneling stuff for them. Funneling stuff for the different organizations, different cults. It might be helping a cult of Artemis in one city. It might be helping a cult of Odin in another. It might be feeding something to the local cult of Aset in another city, etc., etc. And it's doing stuff to help other Scions, and it's kind of getting the PC's knowledge out there. Teaching them about the world slowly, giving them jobs that they're ready for, and then if they happen to have their visitation, it starts getting them into a little bit more stuff that's going on. And that is a key thing with Scion. You don't want to sort of throw the players into the deep end, or the PCs into the deep end, too quickly if you're starting with an Origins level game. Which, with the modern edition, the second edition of Scion, I think is a really good starting point. But how do you determine what's going to be going on in your games? Well, that's the next part of this video. And it's something kind of scary for a lot of people. Research. What you need to do when you run a Scion game, and this is why you're going to research, is you need to make the myths matter. Remember, each of your characters, each of your PCs, directly connects in some way to a god. There's a whole bunch of different gods, mind you, but because there's a whole bunch of different pantheons that it covers. But you want to understand enough about any specific pantheon that you can connect it into the story. One of the great examples is actually in the core book for Origins. The character Donnie, short for Adonis, is a bartender. And he is absolutely beautiful. And 3 women walk in and put down a golden Apple iPhone and say they need to settle a bet. Which one of them is the fairest? Because that one will get the phone. And Donnie's reaction is, oh, I know where this goes. I'm taking it, ladies. Response. Because it was better to have 3 enemies than just 2. But this is a direct call to the challenge, to the question put before Paris that led to this whole thing with a woman named Helen and a massive war at a city called Troy. But that's the thing. You want to have those sorts of connections. You know, you want cases where, oh, look, this person is a Scion of Thor. Well, maybe to get back at somebody, he's got to dress as a woman. Maybe you have a Scion of Lu who's got to win some sort of big contest of multiple skills. You know, those sorts of things. You want to have these sorts of connections going through. You know, maybe it's a drug den with a lotus blossom on the door. Maybe it's who knows what. You just need to know these mythologies at some level. You need to study them, look into them. Because the more you know, the more you can draw those players in. The more you can grab that player and tailor the events so that it's going to pinpoint them. That's going to draw their attention. And it's going to involve them. Because as things happen, you're going to want to shift the focus. But at the same time, you want the players kind of getting that excited, oh, I know this response. Because that, as a GM, is an absolute joy. When you get the player in and excited because you put the immersion work in, that you put the stuff to connect them in. And that is why, for Scion, research is so important. With that said, that is going to be this month's Archival GMing. Next month, you know what? Next month I will talk about the monomyth. So until then, have fun and keep gaming.